most people are not even really clear on the life that they love. They don't know how to dream. They've never given themselves the opportunity to dream. 90% of the time, it's, I just want to be comfortable. If you can't get clear because you don't know how to dream big, start grabbing magazines, start looking through magazines, go old school, start cutting things out, make some vision boards. Like, if you are doing things right now that don't make you feel good, that is an indicator for me that it is not the way that you need to be going.
For somebody that's sitting at home that's thinking, I don't have what Nekeya has, what would you tell them would be some of the top things that you do to help you to call in that effortless manifestation now in your world?
So, I mean, right now I'd say,
I am so excited today. On the Manifested with Kathleen Cameron podcast, I have my second interview. And this interview is going to be a powerful one. We're going to try to fit this conversation into about 25 minutes. We shall see. But today, I'm so excited to have Nekeya, the Savage Spiritualist, on the podcast to share a little bit about her manifestation stories and some of the biggest shifts she's had in her life in the past 2 years. So Nekeya, I am so excited to have you here. We have been co-creating together for the past 2 years. And there's been some beautiful, beautiful shifts in your life. You spoke at my Manifest Toronto event and inspired so many people when you did that. And you have so much in the works. So we'll eventually get to what you're doing now. But I would love to start off with by you just maybe introing yourself a little bit, telling everybody where you were 2 years ago when we found each other.
yeah, so hey, thanks Kathleen. Super great to be here always. 2 years ago, I am what I call a retired, overachiever, masculine, very, in the masculine, worker. I grew a 8-figure business, all in the masculine. I call it like just getting it from the muscle, like hustle and flow. And so when I met you, I was really looking for a more balanced life. I think I saw something that you were running on Facebook, and what jumped out at me was the effortless way. And when you are somebody who a normal week is 80 hours, effortless was a word that was like a magnet to me. And so I clicked, hey, the rest is, as we shall say, history. Because I think after that, I went right into the mastermind group and kind of jumped over all the other stuff and was there for the 2 years that I was with you guys. So.
Yeah, so beautiful. I think one of the things that struck me the most when I met you was just your drive, how inspiring you were, how much success you'd already achieved. So you weren't coming to me from a place of not believing you were successful and wanting to achieve. You'd achieved so much. Many, many things aside from just your business and your company, your whole family life and what you did with George and all that as well. But what was so beautiful was that you'd achieved it all, but you actually wanted to have more, but by doing less. And so I always say too, it's like you created it, but with your hands.
Yes.
And there was an opportunity for you to create more and go bigger, but not exhaust yourself, not be burnt out, not be super, super tired. So what was the first, sort of big change that you made to allow that, I know we've used the language soft life to come in. What's the biggest change that you made to do that?
Well, number one, I had to develop a belief that I was worthy of it. I was coming from a place that, hard work pays off. I'm a melanated woman, so I came, into this industry with the belief that I had to work twice as hard to get half as far. So the first thing that attracted me is that I had the power to change my beliefs. And that was very new because I've been hearing this my whole life. So wait, I can decide that this is not a belief that I have to have operating in my life. And you were like, yeah, like right now, in an instant, you can just say, I don't believe that anymore. Felt kind of fake, but I was like, oh, I ain't got nothing else to lose. Let's try. So just started saying, let me make a list of what do I believe right now that is causing me to have to grind? If I don't want to grind, I have to first change that. And that was the first thing, that I could have a life that felt easy without all the 80-hour weeks and the stress and my life before this, before 7 a.m., I had already said fuck 3 times. Like that was the life, right? So this was like, I can literally do what feels good to me. And that was like the first step of like wow, this feels really good.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, I've always been a woman that works hard too. I always say I'm like a recovering workaholic and, work really hard and you'll make the money type of energy. Now I find the more I rest, the more I make. That was one of the beliefs that I started to instill in myself because I wouldn't rest. I wouldn't relax. I wouldn't go to the spa. I wouldn't even exercise. Like I wouldn't even care about what I ate because you got to work hard to grow the business. So this is part of my own personal journey too. But Nekeya, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but there was one belief I remember that you had an awareness of where you believed that making more money meant you had to be dishonest. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, I came from a place where I did not, two things. One, I did not know wealthy people who looked like me. And the wealthy people that I did know were really dishonest. So if I wanted to be a person who had this life that I desired, I wasn't going to trade my integrity for it. And so it only allowed me to go to a certain, height. And I mean, multi-millions was easy for me, but that was not at all where I knew I could be. So for somebody, they might say to do $1 million year or $1 million month, that's exceptional, but not when the desire within you is $100 million month. It still feels very limiting.
Yeah. And I think the belief too that, for you to observe in your 3D world that wealthy people were dishonest, that meant in order for you to get wealthier, you'd have to believe that you'd need to be dishonest. And so one of the other things that I believe to be true is that the most magnetic power in the universe is authenticity. So about being your authentic self. So I think you tapping in and allowing yourself to be the Savage Spiritualist brand now, which I love watching this come to life. The Savage Spiritualist is authentically you and speaking authentically you. And at Manifest Toronto, like you're an accomplished speaker. You speak on stage in front of big companies all over the world. But what was different about Manifest Toronto?
So, I mean, in my life before the Savage Spiritualist brand, yes, I speak on stage for large corporations and I make thousands of dollars a minute, like literally a minute to speak on stage. But when you're in a corporate setting, it's certain words that kind of feel woo-woo for a certain audience. Manifest Toronto was the first time that I could be on stage and it was what it was. If I wanted to say universe or God or source, that's what I was going to say. I didn't have to say the power or like kind of make a word that would land easy, the presence or whatever. I could like say it exactly as it came up, like tapped in to, my authentic connection to God energy. I could say what felt aligned instead of having to, have a script. And listen, you know me. So in one breath, I might quote a motivational meme. In the next breath, I might cuss you right out. Like I am all aligned and that all feels like alignment. When you're speaking for certain corporations, it's like, you can't say this word. Don't say this word. Even if that is the word that's going to evoke the most change. So I wanted the impact. And so if you're going to censor how source was allowing this to come through me, then the people who needed to hear it would not hear it the way that I wanted. So Manifest Toronto was the first stage where literally I meditated. I literally sat, what came up, I wrote, and I was like, okay, let's go do it. And it landed and it was impactful, but it was because I was able to just say it exactly as it needed to be said.
Be authentic to the truth, to the truth that's operating in you and what you truly believe. So now, since that event in front of corporations, what do you do now? How do you speak?
So the same. And now in my contract, I cannot be censored. I'm not the person for you if you need to be censored. So if it's going to be a truth that lands hard, but it's going to create impact, it's what is needed. If you need it to be like sugar coated with sprinkles, I'm not the person. And I'm at a place right now in my knowing that I'll turn down $1 million knowing that 10 million is on the other side of it if it means I have to show up less than my authentic self. And I don't really give a damn. Like at this point in my life, like it's done. Like it's set. My desires are set. So there's no way that I feel that placating is ever going to be the answer. So, I'll turn it down. And it's only turned down for a second because the fact that they thought of me, I know I'm who they need. So when they go back and have meetings with whoever they need to have meetings with, they always come back and they sign the contract, except yesterday's price is not today's price. So now it's a premium.
There's a financial loss for waiting.
Yeah, for sure.
What I always say.
Move quickly.
Yeah. One of the things that I have found in, the way in which I believe in manifestation and the power of the God of our understanding, is in front of corporations too. They don't want you to use that language. Let's not talk about God or spirituality in that way, which is, I'm starting to see a shift now, which is really beautiful. But when we, 2 years ago, when we first started working together, I remember you having these beliefs that actually, like, you were raised believing in God, which is very different from me. I wasn't raised in that. And you had this idea of religion and of God, and you had to shift that. I would love for you to share your perspective on that shift you made for those that are listening that have been raised believing in a certain God, and how you've consolidated that for this like manifestation.
Yeah, for sure. So I was raised, I guess if you're familiar with religion, the religion that I was raised in would be considered like Pentecostal holiness, and then Baptist.
Yeah.
So I am a Black woman, Caribbean descent, and I was raised that God was a white man. And it didn't work for me because all of the people that I saw that looked like me were not blessed or successful. It was like a struggle bus, one house after the other, but all of them prayed to, believed in, and felt like white Jesus or whatever was the savior. When I started to go into this manifestation world, of course I still believed in God, but from a standpoint of an all-encompassing energy who loved me, not some little judgy white guy looking from the clouds saying, uh-oh, Kia, you didn't do this, so I'm gonna block your blessing or whatever the case may be. So I had to shift. I didn't want to believe that I was the energy that had to do it all, because I went from believing in like Jesus, going through this fit of being pissed off with all the religion, saying I want nothing else to do with it. I can do this on my own. But then that got exhausting. I didn't really want to do it on my own, but I also didn't want to, be getting like blessings that came with strings attached from like this white God. And so the first thing I had to do was identify, what did I really believe? And what came up for me was, yes, God exists, and God is an energy, of course, not a race. And God loves me and is God can only love me. God can only say yes to my desires. God is my biggest cheerleader. And that was very, very different than God will strike you down. God is going to remember that you were bad and God's going to punish you. And it just felt freeing. For the first time, I was able to operate in love because I desired to do it versus in fear because, oh my God, if I don't do it, my life is going to be cursed. And so I threw the whole ideal out the window, and that triggers a lot of people that look like me, right? One of my first posts when I came out as the Savage Spiritualist was, "Dear white Jesus, you are no longer my, and people were like, oh my God, you gonna go to hell when you die." And I'm like, well, the difference is you in hell while we're alive. So that's the difference. And I had to stand on my own convictions. And so now people are like, thank you for being bold enough to say what I didn't have words for, because I know that God is love and I know that God is real, but what I was taught just didn't feel right, but I didn't have the courage to say that it wasn't right. And when I heard you say it, it shocked me at first, like you snatched the Band-Aid off, but then I was like, wow, let me look into that. And now it's testimony after testimony of people being liberated. They love God. They trust in the energy of God, but they're making it mean something very different than this judgy environment that they may have been raised in.
Yeah, I love it so much. And what I always say to people is that if we are seeking to find one singular truth of who and what God is, you're forever going to be searching. So the biggest thing is for us to find the truth of what we want to believe in. What is God according to my belief system? And I always want to believe in the thing that's going to empower me the most, that's going to set me the most free, right? And so you don't have to believe what I believe, and I don't have to believe what you believe. But what I do want to believe in is that what I believe is going to empower me and remove my limitations the most. And
when we started working together, and you were kind of saying that, I was saying to myself, can you believe I have believed in something that has tormented me? A lot of the beliefs were not leading towards anything that felt good.
Yeah.
It was like judgment, and you ain't good enough, and you are going to be punished, and this is why your life is that you're less than. And every day you wake up to keep trying to believe in that. And you were like, well, you literally asked me this question, and you said, is that serving the life that you want to live, with like this really confused look on your face? And I was kind of like, I'm not living the life I want to live. Like, I don't feel the happiness that I want to feel. And you go, well, but you still believe that. And it was kind of like you're asking a question without like really asking it, but it's kind of with this like aha moment behind it. And when I got home and I started thinking about it, I was like, why would you keep it's kind of like eating a food that's making you sick, but you won't cut it out of your diet.
Yeah, totally.
So that was like a aha, like, yep, these things are not making me feel abundant or good or worthy or loved, which is what I wanted to feel. And so they no longer are in the belief things that I follow and believe. So beautiful.
And the thing of it is like, it's not actually whether something is real or true that's impacting you. It's just the belief that you think it's real and true that's impacting you. And you can actually just dismiss a belief. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this, because one of the questions that people ask me all the time is, what about societal limitations? What about real, visible evidence? We can see things like gender inequality, racism, fat phobia. We can see all these out physically operating in the 3D world. And so the 3D world will tell you that these are true and these are real and you should live your life according to them. But I know a lot of the work that we did and what we've had a lot of beautiful conversations about is removing yourself from having those limitations, even if they exist in society. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
For sure. I mean, being a Black woman, natural hair, all the things, right? And you're working in an environment that may not have a lot of that represented.
Yep.
You can witness and see people's biases, but I can also decide that is not going to stop what I want to do. It is a strength in that. Two things can be true at the same time. You can be a racist and I can still not let it affect me.
Yeah.
Like I have to give you permission to ever make me feel any way. You can't make me feel anything. I can align with what you're projecting as a truth, because that's the only time it affects you. Like I have on right now some gold shoes, right? If somebody walks in and says, I hate everybody with green shoes on, that does not even affect me. I don't have on green shoes. It literally goes over my head. But if they walk in and say, I hate everybody with gold shoes on, okay, my mind will say, oh, you have on gold shoes. Yeah. Are they talking about you? And instantly I connect with that comment. But I can choose to not connect with it. So when people do things, I've just learned to start saying, that shit tell me more about you than it'll ever tell me about me. And the fact that it's bothering you means it's something about that you wish you had. And maybe it's melanin, I don't know. But that's the reason why it affects you so much. I got it, you don't, so whatever. But I've learned how to make this a game, because if I didn't, the way I'm set up, it was either going to be success or jail, like, right? I don't really know if I'm gonna look good in orange. So I just had to kind of figure out how to play a game with people's stuff being their stuff and not making it be about me. So I can empathize when people say, but Kia, you don't understand. At my job, they are racist, or at my job, they don't treat women fair. And I can say, that's probably true. But if you're focusing on that, it's going to really amplify in how things show up in your everyday life. But you can say, that's their stuff. What do I desire to do? And focus on that. And that's literally what I did. There's not a door I've ever wanted to open that I did not go in, regardless of if they were trying to hold it closed on the other side. I didn't focus on that. I created something that made you need me far more than I needed you, and you were going to pay me for it. You create leverage with the things that you have, that you see, that are something that works in your favor. So that made me have to do two things. I had to honor that I'm a Black woman. I had to see that as a superpower and not a disadvantage.
Yes.
Long as I walked in and thought, oh, they're going to see that I'm a Black woman. My mother is Caribbean. She's, spoke. So one of the things that she didn't want us to do was speak with an accent, because that would increase the chances that somebody could discriminate against you. And now I hate that I don't sound like more Caribbean. Like I even try to like make it sound. I'm like, hey, I ain't got it. I lost it, right? But in the time that she was growing up, she would say, okay, you're Black, you're a woman, and we're Caribbean. That's 3 ways that they're going to discriminate. Imagine from the age you can remember that being told to you as a truth.
Yeah.
These are things you can't do anything about. I guess people can nowadays, but like I couldn't, right?
Yep.
So I had to make a choice.
Yep.
And I thought, like, everything I've ever created that has been my superpower.
Beautiful. And what that makes me think is like, there are going to be limitations in the world and in society, but it doesn't have to be a limitation within your identity, your self-concept. Like you saying that you open all the doors no matter who's trying to keep them closed. That's a very empowered identity that you hold. And many, many individuals can continue to empower themselves no matter what's going on. So I absolutely love that.
For sure.
I want to talk about, though, because you are a very powerful manifestor. And the whole entire reason that we have this podcast is so that people can learn about what are some of the ways in which we've manifested our real life success. You've manifested millions and millions of dollars. You've manifested houses and trips and magazine shoots and all things. And you have a book coming out. Do we have a title of this book yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Well, I mean, we're waiting on the.
Is it going to be released this year? 2025? Oh, am I pushing the envelope asking this?
No, potentially, yeah, for sure.
Good.
I mean, it's on the right track. But the book is also going to be a movie. So yeah, it has to be kind of written in a certain way. So
okay, beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be all things fabulous.
So with all of the stuff that you're manifesting and all the success that you've had in your life, for somebody that's sitting at home that's thinking, I don't have what Nekeya has. I haven't done what she's done. I don't know what she knows. What would you tell them would be some of the top things that you do to help you to call in that effortless manifestation now in your world?
So, I mean, right now, I'd say most people are not even really clear on the life that they love. They don't know how to dream. They've never given themselves the opportunity to dream. Like if I ask somebody right now, okay, if you could have anything, if literally time, money was not an issue, I was going to cover it. What would you ask for? 90% of the time it's, I just want to be comfortable. I just want to be able to pay my bills. And what does that even mean? So the first thing that I try and do is be absolutely clear down to the most minimal thing of what I want this thing to look like. I mean, I know the stitching in the Rolls Royce. Like I know exactly what, like something that somebody might just say, well, I just want a car. No, I know I want V12. I know what the motor needs to say. I can hear it. Like I try to put myself in the right now, in the moment of having it. But if you can't even get clear on what that looks like, what does your house look like? What does your kitchen look like? What glass are you having your coffee out of? Like this is how intentional I am about what I desire. And so the first thing I'd say is, if you can't get clear because you don't know how to dream big, start grabbing magazines, start looking through magazines, go old school, start cutting things out, make some vision boards, and not just vision boards that have words, powerful, no, things that you actually want to be able to manifest in the 3D, you got to be able to see those. And then before I had my first Mercedes, I had an Acura. Do you know I printed a Mercedes symbol and taped it to the steering wheel of my Acura? I was driving a Mercedes long before. This is how intentional I am about literally having it. So when I got into my Acura, maybe it was an Acura, but for me, it was my Mercedes. Like I embodied that before I knew that word. I didn't know that that's what it was, but I was doing that. So I would tell people, get clear on the dream, like go big, like not something that you think you can do. Something that is going to require you believing that something bigger than you is source doing some magician work to help you manifest this. This is what I do. Then the second thing I do is I put myself in the environment. So the house that I'm in right now, maybe it's the kitchen that I want for my next house. You can't tell me that that's not the kitchen I'm in every day now.
Yeah.
Who can tell me that I'm not? Who gets to decide that? So I've lost 60 pounds since me and you started working together. And the way that I did, I already saw myself in suits that I had bought 7 years before. Couldn't get in, couldn't get past my thighs. I saw myself, I tried them on every month. Like I put myself in the middle of the things that I
using
desire.
Your imagination too.
Yeah, always.
To visualize that.
Because I mean, if you're saying, well, Nekeya, it's not right now that I can touch, taste, or feel, then I say go to a place where you can. And the only place for me that is within my own imagination.
In your mind. Yeah.
But I've gotten so good at it now that sometimes I forget that I'll walk out in the parking lot and be like, this ain't my car. Cause I've been jumping in like, this is not my car. And I'm like, oh yeah. Cause I've been doing that for so long that the car that I'm actually driving, I'll forget that this is the actual 3D car and not the one that I've actually been spending time in that's in my imagination. And then just have faith and move towards what makes you feel happy. If you are doing things right now that don't make you feel good, that is an indicator for me that it is not the way that you need to be going.
Yep.
So I always say it's two sides of every question that I ask myself. One side is faith, the other side is fear. So when I make a decision, am I making a decision in fear or faith? If I'm making this decision because I'm scared of what's going to happen or whatever, that's fear. Then I try to, kind of train myself to make a decision in faith. Maybe not even knowing how it's going to work out, but just trusting that it always works out for me.
I would love to know, so Savage Spiritualist is now your brand, and who you are and who you embody. What is, tell me about that brand, and then what is coming next for it?
Okay, so, this brand is the embodiment of just the effortless. I'm pushing the envelope on literally how far I can create just because I desire it and decide. I'm only taking inspired, creative action, which means I wake up every day and do whatever I want to do. I don't do anything that doesn't feel good. I've just created the Abundance Recipe Journal that is bundling and is selling, really, really well. Also, just some courses. I have my Celebrity Manifestation VIP Day. Just did my first one this week in San Francisco.
Beautiful.
Where I am curating embodiment experiences for my clients, and just all things fabulous. It is a lifestyle luxury. This brand is about normalizing melanated luxury. Black and brown women. So my heart has been Black and brown women feeling that certain experiences are just normal. It's supposed to feel like this. We are supposed to be soft life. It's not just soft life era. You should always be in a soft life, operating in feminine and moving through creative masculine, but not doing anything because we feel like we have to do it. And so this is a luxury lifestyle brand. So partnering with brands that are aligned with kind of like what I love, from health, hair care to, a perfume line, candles, all the things that I love, everything that's in my bag. I'm traveling all over and I'm partnering with travel destinations. So it's like, what's in Nekeya's luggage this week? I'm going to Belize, I'm going to wherever. And then like having, places that we are staying that represent opulence, luxury, and just melanated, I'm so fascinated with women who have not been taught that this is normal, operating as if, of course I have a maid, of course I have a chef, of course I have a butler, of course people unpack my luggage at my hotels, of course I'm in the penthouse. Like the conversation is happening as if it's something that our parents taught us when we were kids. Not that we're 40 and 50 and just discovering it. I have a daughter who is 5, and she will not know that this is not normal. And that is what inspires me, the representation of melanated luxury.
Oh,
is what the
so
brand
beautiful.
stands for now.
And one of my favorite quotes is that luxury isn't a price tag, it's a feeling.
For sure.
And so you're really going to teach people how to feel that way and then experience that, the embodiment of it. So what we'll do is we'll put in the show notes, we'll put your abundance journal, and then you can follow Nekeya, the Savage Spiritualist, and watch for when that book comes out and then that movie comes out, because there's far more to this story, truly, that you guys are going to learn even more about Nekeya than you learned today. But Nekeya, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. Sure. And please, everyone, remember, and this is just another example of how the limit does not exist.